Has the market slowed? Are there still a lot of houses for sale? And what does the CDC have to say about you evicting a tenant? Stay tuned. I'm going to answer all these and more.
Hey there, it's Angel, your local Bakersfield expert and your favorite realtor.
Leasing it, but you just need to know what you're getting into and whether you're going to buy or sell. Hey there, it's Angel. You know me. I am your realtor here in Bakersfield. Thank you for being here week after week. All right, market update. Here we go. So the last time we did this was in March, and things were still very acute, is the term that is in our industry, an acute shortage. So if you're in the medical profession, you know when you have an acute onset of something, it's like just dramatically big, dramatically low was the current state of our market in March of 2021 and most of 2020, but it got really, really tight at the end of 2020 and early into 2021. That acute shortage has slowed down a little bit. The biggest question that a lot of people are asking is this a bubble? Are we in a correction? So here's what I'm going to say to that. Have you ever ridden a roller coaster? So a roller coaster, right, when they're done, you're doing all your flips and flops and inside and outside. And then when it comes to the end, you slow down a little bit. They don't get you to the end of the hill and go, ah! That is a correction. That is a bubble bursting. We are not there. We are at the end of the roller coaster and it is slowly coming to a stop. All right, we've come to a little bit of a lull where there's still not a lot of houses on the market. I'll give you those numbers. And there's still a lot of buyers that are still looking. This is called market supply and demand. So as we discussed in March, it was less than a month worth of inventory at that time. We are still hovering right at about a month and a week. And this is early August of 2021. And here's what I think happened. I think a lot of people got tired. I think there was a lot of buyer fatigue and the world was opened up and people had the money and they were like, I'm tired of being denied house after house after house, being one of 7 offers, being one of 25 offers, being one of whatever, putting in tons of money over asking and removing the appraisal guarantee, as we've talked about several times. And I think they just said, peace out, we're gonna go live our life. We're gonna go enjoy summer because there's a lot of question marks on the horizon about being locked down again. And there's a lot of, what's gonna happen in the fall, school, no school. People, I think, were just, the buyer fatigue hit big time. So that's why things slowed down a little bit. They were not actively looking at the same level that they were from January to June. They were still looking, but they weren't as like, let's get out there, let's get out there, let's get out there. I know I personally had a lot of you guys say to me, I'm gonna wait a little bit. The market's making me a little crazy. I'm getting frustrated, buyer fatigue through and through. So with that in mind, going forward in the rest of August and through the rest of 2021, I think it's safe to say that we are still going to have a seller shortage. I think a couple of things are on the horizon. I think a lot of you sellers that are on the fence wondering, do I stay, do I go, what's happening with the recall election, I think that's going to be key. And if that is the case and people are on the fence about what's going to happen until they know the results of that, they will go to a red state. Absolutely, they will say, peace out, if he stays, we're gone. By the way, if you have not watched the recall video that I made about the recall election, make sure you watch this one so you know what to expect in September so that we can have him recalled so that you can stay. All of that to say, I think it's still going to be tight and still a seller's market through and through for the rest of 2021. The interest rates are still low. The inventory is still low, and I think people are really in a prime season of life with having equity in their homes and having money to buy. All of the experts agree this is not a correction. This is not a bubble popping. Really, everybody just keeps pointing to buyer fatigue and the world being open. So if you are still thinking about buying, it's still a good time to get qualified. Make sure you leave me a message if you want to go ahead and get qualified. I've got the form for you to fill out. You can do that. If you are on the fence about selling and you're waiting to decide to see if Gabby is recalled on September 14th, and you say, okay, if he stays, we go, then on September 15th, you want to list your house, make sure you download the seller guide to help you get your house ready to go on market. As of today, August 7th, There are 682 properties for sale here in Bakersfield. Just the Bakersfield city limits. I didn't even expand that to Kern County. That doesn't include Tehachapi, that doesn't include Delano, that just includes the Bakersfield zip codes. So 682 is still a very small number. If you remember back in the other market update that I did back in March, I think we had 300 and some odd. So it is increasing, just not a lot, but we have a little bit more than a month of inventory. Now let's talk about the CDC and the eviction moratorium. So because of Rona, they put an eviction moratorium on all individual property owners. So the Fed and the CDC got together and they said that we don't want people to have to be evicted while the world is still a big question mark. How are we going to earn money? How are we going to work from home? Are we going to go back in? So they put an eviction moratorium on small property owners. That would mean, you know, your uncle or your aunt who has one or two investment properties and, you know, they have tenants in them. They could not evict those tenants. All the tenant had to do and to be able to stay in the house was to say, my job is on the fence because of Rona, and then they cannot get evicted. Those property owners have still had to pay property taxes. They've still had to pay the mortgages on the properties. They've still had to make the repairs if necessary. And they have not been getting rents if those people have decided to not pay rent. So who's to say how long that has happened, but that has the potential to cripple smaller property owners that might only have a handful of properties that they've been having to fork out the money because the tenants haven't been paying. So yay, they released it. Everybody was getting ready to start their processes, and then they reinstituted it. They put it back in place, even though the Supreme Court ruled 5-4 that it was unconstitutional for the CDC to step in and say what private property owners could and couldn't do with their investments. And so now it is going through the end of September. Whether or not we are kicking the can down the road and they will extend it, I do not know, but the writing is on the wall that this is going to be something that becomes a constant conversation between private property owners and the Fed and the bureaucrats at CDC. There are whispers of relief for property owners to be able to get some of the Fed money for being able to catch up on rents or back mortgage payments or anything like that, so that they can kind of eke out until the end of September. I don't know the parameters of what is necessary for that to happen, what kind of paperwork you need to fill out, or what the status of your loan needs to be in order for them to grant you those monies. But apparently in the pipeline is some Fed money coming for relief for the property owners, just like they gave to the tenants. But what does this mean if you are thinking about renting? It means that rents are going to go up. Absolutely, rents are going to go up because the homeowners are going to need to replenish the coffers of months of no rent from somebody that maybe didn't pay for, 6, 8, 9 months of living in the property because of Rona, because they knew they couldn't get evicted. And this has a lot of potential downfall for homeowners that are trying to, build their wealth with investment property. You can be in a position where you can't get ahead and then the house has to go to foreclosure. Well, then who comes to buy it up? The state, the Fed, big hedge funds. And so those are not your neighbors. Those are not your, your friends from work that want to live in your neighborhood. Those are people that don't have an invested interest in the neighborhood and the community. And it really has a negative impact for anybody that is looking to build a legacy in real estate and have real estate be something that they hand down generationally. I am here to help you navigate that as best we can going forward, but the short version is hang in there. We're gonna make it, and I will see you next Wednesday.